We're looking at Matthew chapter 8 from verses 23 through to 27, and I'm using the ESV. Jesus calms the storm. And when he got into the boat, his disciples followed him. And behold, there arose a great storm on the sea, so that the boat was being swamped by the waves. But he was asleep. And they went and woke him, saying, "Save us, Lord, we are perishing." And he said to them, "Why are you afraid, O you of little faith?" And then he rose and rebuked the winds and the sea, and there was a great calm. And the men marvelled, saying, "What sort of man is this, that even winds and sea obey him?" If we understand the ship to be ourselves, and the waters, the sea, the lake, to be the waters of the world, then the ship quite properly, for now, has its place in the water. But for the water to flow into the ship is unsuitable and dangerous. So it is for a man to have his abode in the world. It's right and good for himself and others in this life, for this is where God has put us. For if he keeps himself afloat, he will be able to help others to arrive along with himself at the haven of life, who is Christ. But for the world to find its way into his heart, for the water to start coming into the boat, that means death and destruction. For instead of floating above the waters, as we are told to do, to be in the world but not of it, the boat instead begins to sink into the waters and is swamped by the world and worldly things. And this leads to death and destruction. God created the world so men might make use of it, but men should not drown themselves in it. And why was the Lord asleep in the boat? When you have come to Christ and you follow him, as the apostles were doing, then he is with you always. But we are not always focusing on him. We get distracted by the things of the world. Just as the apostles were distracted by the storms going on around them, so too we get distracted by the things of this life. And so Christ sleeps in our boat because we are not focusing on him. We are not speaking to him, sharing our life with him. We are focused on the other things. But suddenly, when the storm gets too frightening for us, when we fear we're in peril for our lives, when there is a crisis in our lives, that is often when people will turn to God and say, "Help me, Lord." And that is when the apostles wake Jesus up at that point of peril, where they realise that the only way that they can get through this storm is by the Lord's help and presence with them. Not asleep in their lives, but fully awake and fully present, and their entire focus.